part of that.
The biggest part of it, I think. And, you know, they settled the whole thing on here, and everything took off from here. We got the Tumwater Falls Park, which they started back in 1962, I think it was, and then they built the golf course, and that was another big thing.
What about the celebrities? You know, in the 60s, this place was booming, and they were bringing people in here. And Bing Crosby's grandparents lived right down the hill here, and
right.
They restored that house, the Crosby House. What about these celebrities you brought in? Who did they bring in here?
We had Bing Crosby brought in, several movie stars, because they threw parties. The brewery threw parties for all of this, and they brought in all these movie stars for the people that worked here at the brewery. It was a fun time in the 60s when you had a lot of stuff like that going on. It was just a good time. We had dancing down there, and they had all kinds of stuff.
There's a lot of benefits that are enjoyed today by families that have a developmentally disabled child or a child with autistic or other problems because of the advocacy provided by the Schmidt family and others. They really made a difference in early laws in our state to make things better for disabled people and handicapped people.
Yeah, they did a wonderful job on all of that.
It's a legacy,
yeah.
Real legacy.
And I'm glad that just goes on and on and on. It keeps on going.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a great legacy that you've helped create here, and it's a beautiful spot in our state of Washington, and it's a great place to come and enjoy.
Yeah, well, you know, you got the Puget Sound and everything here. You don't need to really go anywhere else because you got everything right here to enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's a very beautiful surroundings and everything.
Well, thank you for your work. Thank you. It's a pleasure talking
you're welcome.
to you. Thank you. Another remarkable thing is the brewery hired well-known artists who created the really advertising for the brewery, but the whole collection has been saved and goes on display quite frequently here at the Schmidt House. It's another gift that the brewery legacy leaves for all of us. What an incredible location. It just outlines how significant this beautiful home is. The Schmidt House, right here in Tumwater, Washington. Truly one of my favorite places. Today we're on the shores of the mighty Columbia River near the town of Brewster, Washington. This was the original site of Fort Okanagan, the first American-owned property in what is now Washington State. But many years ago, this was disputed territory between the British and the Americans, and no one was really sure who would end up being the owner. John Jacob Astor was a wealthy financier from New York City, but he knew the fur trade business. He saw the popularity of beaver pelt hats, and he thought if I could establish forts up and down the Columbia River, he could make a fortune. His plan was good, but carrying it out didn't work so well. He sent an overland party here to the Pacific Northwest that had tremendous difficulties. He sent a ship around Cape Horn. They had tremendous difficulties. He did establish a small trading company, and he did establish this fort and another one down by Astoria, Oregon, which is named after John Jacob Astor. But the whole operation really fell apart. The War of 1812 took place. The Northwest Company, a British company, took over, and later the long-established Hudson Bay Company took over this property. The site is still here, the history is still here. It's now managed by the Colville Indian tribe, and we thank them for their many efforts to keep this site open to the public and available to all of us. Fort Okanagan, part of our history, part of our heritage, and most certainly one of my favorite places. Edna Brazil was a remarkable woman. She was raised on a stump farm right near Bayview and on Padilla Bay. She taught at Roosevelt High School her whole career. And one of the years she was there, maybe two, she had this young kid in her class named Dan Evans. And after she retired, she went back to the farm, and the developers were banging on her. They really wanted to develop that farm, because if you look at the farm, it's a natural slope all the way up the hill. So they wanted to put rows and rows of houses, which would all look out over the bay. They sold hundreds and hundreds of lots. She really wanted to preserve it. She wanted to figure out some way to save that farm. And so she called Dan Evans, who was now the governor of the state of Washington. And they worked together and made sure that the farm was preserved, and the state started to buy up those pieces and parcels. And so the state of Washington now owns most of the bay. It became an education center for young people. Edna Brazil was the hero, and what a remarkable lady. She went home and lived out her life there, watching these kids all around her on her family farm, learning about the environment and how to protect our state. I feel privileged to have known her. She lived it right there her whole life. It's one of my favorite places.
I grabbed his foot to shake it to wake him up, and it was cold. The paramedics came in, and I'll never forget his look. It was like he felt so bad for me. This could happen to anybody. It has nothing to do with your parenting. It's just really getting that message to your kids so that when they go out into this world, they have a chance of coming back home.
Madison Park area of Seattle is considered the Gold Coast by many. But here amongst the high-rise buildings and luxury condominiums lies a real gem. This is Pioneer Hall, an organization formed more than 100 years ago by the children and grandchildren of our state's earliest settlers. It's quite a location to visit. Come into the hall and you can see artifacts, you can see the films of early pioneer days, ancient paintings, and just a wide variety of programs and opportunities to learn more about the history of our state. When you visit Pioneer Hall, you'll see all kinds of artifacts, household items, books, paintings of early homes and cabins, tools that they used, just an opportunity to learn more about day-to-day life of the first people who occupied this region of the world. Of course, these pioneers were not the first people to live here. It's also about the Native American peoples that lived here for generations before the first Caucasians, Europeans, and Asians arrived. This is Pioneer Hall, a place you can come and visit. It's a blessing for each of us to have this wealth of knowledge that's been given to us by this organization. Pioneer Hall is truly one of my special and most favorite places. It's hard to believe that up until about 1955, most places around Puget Sound didn't have any garbage service. And a lot of people either burned their garbage in the backyard or tossed it all in the bay. There wasn't much plastic in those days, so mostly what
Today, my name is Michael Kelly. I'm the Communications Director at the Washington Department of Natural Resources. I want to appreciate all of you for coming out today, and I want to bring Commissioner Upthegrove up to speak. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I know everyone's excited for today's big announcement. Apparently Taylor Swift has announced her engagement to, was it Tyler Kelsey? Travis Kelsey. I'm not up on, they're stepping on my news. No, but good morning and thank you to everyone for being here. We're here today at Tiger Mountain, standing just a few steps from some of the most beautiful, structurally complex, and ecologically valuable forest land in the state of Washington. If you listen, you can hear the wind in the canopies. You can see the layers of the canopies behind us. This is the kind of forest we want future generations to inherit. These forests are vital to sequestering and storing carbon, supporting critical habitat, and providing the biodiversity essential to maintaining both ecological and economic sustainability. But our world is changing. The impacts of climate change are all around us, and we continue to see a rapid loss in biodiversity. Fortunately, since 1957, the Washington State Department of Natural Resources has been a world leader in thoughtful, sustainable forest management by constantly evolving and innovating to meet the moment. So now, to meet this moment of change and challenge, we must evolve again, which is why today I'm proud to sign a commissioner's order to conserve 77,000 acres of structurally complex forests across western Washington, including every acre of our older forests. Conserving these acres will allow us to steward them. Conserving these acres will allow us to nurture and steward them in new ways so that we can do more for our climate, more for habitat, and more for the communities we serve. We'll also use these lands to diversify the revenue state lands have provided since statehood. That means tapping into ecosystem services, which simply put means generating revenue for the benefits these forests provide: clean air, stored carbon, healthy water, and wildfire resilience. A broad-based panel of experts, after 2 years of study, recommended many of these strategies, from carbon credits to avoided wildfire emissions, from leasing excess water rights to new markets like blue carbon and biodiversity credits. Washington is well positioned to capture the full value of what our forests provide. That's why this winter we'll ask the legislature for authority to enter into these markets, to let us generate revenue in new ways that are ecologically beneficial. Moving forward, we also will seek to acquire additional forest lands to provide more revenue and wood supply down the road. Also, in some cases, ecological thinning to improve habitat, forest health, and accelerate stand stage development also may provide revenue opportunities from these lands. And finally, we'll seek increased value from existing timber sales by promoting mass timber markets, maximizing return on certified forest products, and reviewing how we structure and configure timber sales. Today's action builds on the pause I initiated on my first day in office in January on the sale of all structurally complex mature forests. That pause gave me the chance to travel the state, to see these forests firsthand, to learn from our foresters and scientists, and to listen to tribes, beneficiaries, industry, conservation leaders, and the public. Meanwhile, DNR foresters and scientists used that pause to accelerate the development of an innovative new tool to map structurally complex stands. Their work identified even more of these stands than expected, making it possible for us to take this major step forward while still meeting our responsibilities to schools and local governments. What we're doing today is the largest forest conservation action in Washington in a generation. It will accelerate our progress on climate and habitat goals, create room for innovation, and diversify revenue, while ensuring sustainable timber harvests continue elsewhere to support our schools and our counties. This is how we move forward responsibly. This is how we ensure a just transition that supports rural communities and leaves no one behind. This is a big step, but this is only the beginning. Today marks the start of a new era of forest management in Washington, an era where ecological and economic needs are not in conflict, but aligned, and I couldn't be prouder or more excited for what's ahead. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Alyssa Macy, CEO of Washington Conservation Action. Alyssa?
Atukti Wigwa, good day. I'm Alyssa Macy, a citizen of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, Oregon, and the CEO of Washington Conservation Action. I invite you to close your eyes for a minute and just take a breath. As you fill your lungs with the forest air, appreciate the smell of the warm earth, the astringent tang of cedars and the firs. You feel it, right? We're all connected, people and forests and streams and summer breezes. That's why I'm grateful to be here, to applaud and congratulate the Commissioner of Public Lands, Dave Upthegrove, on his order to conserve 77,000 acres of mature and structurally complex state forest lands. The decision to conserve these acres comes after 6 months of scientific study and analysis. And that followed years of activism by communities and organizations across the state. It's a big win for people and nature. With climate change upon us, we need a new vision for forestry, one that takes a more holistic view. We must recognize the economic value of timber, but of also the clean air, the clean water, wildlife habitat, carbon storage, and cultural value of the forest lands for which our state is famous. This is a bold decision, a necessary decision. It also aligns with DNR's duty to provide benefits for all members of the public. In 2022, the state Supreme Court issued a unanimous decision on litigation brought by WCA, Conservation Northwest, and partners. The state Supreme Court affirmed that DNR's mandate is both to generate benefit to trust beneficiaries and to generate benefit to the public. This is the first major action that puts DNR's newly affirmed broad discretion into practice. We look forward to supporting this work moving forward in an ecologically credible and socially just way. This process must include seeking input of local communities and technical experts. It must also involve engagement and consultation with tribes. WCA is excited to begin this journey with DNR. We also look forward to DNR building on this first step by pursuing a range of strategies to modernize management of all 2 million acres of public state trust lands for all the people of Washington. We will work with Upthegrove and DNR on implementing this new commitment and other innovative approaches as we care for our forests today and for generations to come. Thank you so much, and congratulations, Dave.
All right, good morning. My name is Ty Menser. I'm the chair of the Board of County Commissioners for Thurston County, your capital county. I'm proud to stand here today in support of Commissioner Upthegrove's announcement regarding Washington's older, complex state forest lands. I want to briefly talk about why this is important to us in Thurston County. I represent a district that contains a large portion of Capital State Forest, which is a large area of DNR-managed public lands straddling Thurston and Grays Harbor counties. It was about 5 years ago when a group of constituents approached me about a proposed DNR cut that would remove a beloved stand of structurally complex forest from lands directly adjacent to their residential neighborhood. I learned that out of a total of 110,000 acres, we had less than 3,000 acres remaining of structurally complex forest in Capital State Forest, and the residents of Thurston County desperately wanted to keep those last few remaining parcels intact. Further, I learned that after a multi-decade pause, the majority of these remaining acres were targeted for harvest by 2026, so the clock was ticking if we were going to save any of this older forest. At such a small scale, it did not seem like an unreasonable ask. We increasingly know these types of forests are workhorses for capturing climate pollution, providing wildlife corridors, and creating healthy, biodiverse ecosystems. So since that fateful meeting with a small group of residents in October 2020, I have learned more about timber management, trust beneficiaries, and carbon sequestration than I ever could have bargained for. I learned how complex these issues are and why it has been so difficult to change management paradigms despite changing science and community values. But on behalf of my constituents, I personally put a considerable amount of effort into this issue, spending more time on it than perhaps any other single issue over the last 5 years. I wrote emails. I wrote letters. I provided live public comment to the BNR. I attended forestry conferences. I spoke at a rally in front of the DNR building. I met with timber companies. I met with school district superintendents. I co-wrote an op-ed in the newspaper. I had lengthy meetings with every member of the Board of Natural Resources, all with the unanimous support of my fellow county commissioners. And we didn't get very far. Some of the sales we opposed were temporarily paused, but all were ultimately approved. So today, we in Thurston County could not be happier to stand here in support of Commissioner Upthegrove's landmark announcement, which I believe represents the biggest step forward for our forests in a generation. We are thrilled to hear that Thurston County's voice has been heard and that 77,000 acres of structurally complex forests will be conserved across the state, including many areas in my county of the greatest value and importance to my community. We are also happy to hear that DNR is committed to continuing to meet its responsibilities to counties, schools, libraries, and fire districts as they struggle with uncertain budgets by pursuing innovative and diverse strategies on these carbon-dense lands. Thurston County will help in any way we can to help DNR obtain the tools and resources it needs to move public forest management into the 21st century. It requires courage to take on difficult problems and follow through on something as significant as a change in the management of state forest lands. And we applaud the Commissioner of Public Lands for his bold leadership that will provide certainty for beneficiaries, the industry, the department, local governments, and our forests. Thank you.
Okay, let's get to signing, Dave.
Stop that. By conserving 77,000 acres, including all of our older forests, we're protecting our climate, our communities, and our future. So ordered. There'll be coffee and cookies in the refectory.
We can open it up to a few questions, if there are any.
Can do questions here or one-on-one if people prefer either. Excellent. Let's do them one-on-one.
All right, we'll do them one-on-one. Thank you, everyone.
Who gets this?